Okay, Tim, let's talk about one of our most favourite subjects of all times. That is Portugal.
And that is how to Portugal in the winter.
And some of these points can obviously be used in the summertime, but from our point of view, North Americans, we experience a lot of cold in the wintertime, and so we go to Portugal to get a milder climate. So, what's the weather like in Portugal?
Well, in December and January, it can be cold, but your temperatures are going to be between 15 degrees C and 59 Fahrenheit. But you will probably need a jacket in the evening.
We were in Tavira in December, New Year's Eve, December 31st, a year ago. And we definitely had to be wearing winter jackets, especially in the evening. I even bought a woolly toque.
I remember that because it was a little chilly, wasn't it?
It was colder than we expected, but during the day, we did get some nice temperatures. In February and March, it's starting to warm up. So you'll get up to 21 degrees C. That's what we've been noticing. You can get higher than that, but you're sort of getting into the region, especially if you're in the center of the Algarve, like Albufeira, you're getting into a light jacket and the odd day of t-shirt weather.
Sounds great. But you also have to remember, Norm, that it is the rainy season there.
Yep.
And there is a good chance you will need an umbrella because it can rain.
It's not incessant rain.
No.
It might rain for an hour or two and then go away, but you can get caught out with some rain. But in between of that, there's lots of blue sky. And we have had 24 degrees C, 75 degrees Fahrenheit weather in February and March. Beautiful to walk on the beach. And definitely t-shirt weather and shorts. Number two, Teen. How do we get to Portugal?
Well, of course, the easiest way, Norm, is going to be to fly there. And for us, the one that we really like is going to Faro International Airport.
Which is the airport that services the Algarve. So it's incredibly convenient. And most places are at the most 2 hours from the airport. The average, I would say, would be an hour and a half. You can fly to Lisbon from Toronto and from most northern US airports. But we go with Air Transat from Toronto direct to Faro. And it's a great service, and they're flying 3 times a week.
And of course, Norm, if people were to fly into Lisbon, you do have that other option that you could take a bus from Lisbon down to the Algarve.
Yeah, and TAP, they will sell you a ticket from the US or Canada to Faro via Lisbon. All their flights arrive in Lisbon. You have a layover. It's typically 4 hours, 4.5 hours, and then they'll fly you into Faro. That's why we like going direct to Faro from Toronto, because it saves us 4.5 hours of layover time.
It's great, isn't it? We really like that.
And some of the airlines that are flying to Portugal, typically Lisbon, is Air Canada, TAP, the national airline of Portugal, and United Airlines recently started a flight from Newark direct to Faro. And there are 3 other cities in the US that probably are going to fly via Lisbon, which are...
And that is if you're leaving from Boston or Washington, D.C. or Miami.
So it's easy to get there.
Yeah.
It's typically a 7-hour flight from the East Coast or central Canada. It's 7 hours for us.
It is, isn't it? Obviously, it's a bit longer if you're going from out east or west, but for us, we can be there in 7 hours.
So accommodation, how do we find the accommodation that we end up renting?
Well, because we've been there a few times now, I could imagine that we're kind of a little expert at this, eh, Norm?
Well, we've got the lay of the land.
Yeah.
We kind of have been to nearly all the cities along the Algarve. So we have a very good idea of what the cities offer.
Yeah.
And then it's the question of where do you want to be based for your stay in Portugal?
So there are quite a few companies that we will look at to look for accommodation. We will start with Expedia and Booking.com. They're two really big ones
They
that
are.
everybody is familiar with, and you can easily just put in the name of the town you want to go to, and lots of choices will come up.
And not just hotels, you can get sort of rental accommodation through that as well.
And then often when we get the information about a place there, we often contact the hotel direct, don't we? And we find that sometimes you can get some really good deals actually on the hotel's own website.
Some of the travel companies like Expedia, Booking.com, they want you to pay up front. And sometimes you're booking this maybe 3 or 4 months in advance. So we like going direct to the hotels once we've done our research. And the one that we've been staying at in Albufeira, the Lunar Solitude.
The Lunar Solitude.
We pay on arrival. We just pay
Yeah.
a small deposit and then pay on arrival, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we do like that.
If you're in Portugal and you're in the Algarve, don't forget to look up at buildings. There are many buildings that we go by, apartment buildings, and they'll have a sign on either for sale or for rent. And just jot down the telephone number and you could maybe do a deal direct with the owner. Or then there's real estate agents that are very popular in the Algarve that you can rent from.
Yeah, and I think one of those, Norm, is Garvatur, which have quite a few offices along the Algarve. So that would be one that you could contact to say that you're looking for properties, say, for a month over the winter.
And we know in Albufeira they were renting property in the Monaco building.
Yeah.
We also looked at Quatira, and they had a building they were renting apartments there as well. And don't forget, if you meet anybody on your stay in Portugal, ask them about
Yeah.
what they're doing, where
Yeah.
are they staying, what sort of deal have they got.
Yeah.
It's great resources to do that. And then there's a Portuguese website, Idealista, which is another, like a version of Airbnb or something like that. And don't forget Airbnbs as well, but we tend to find that they're priced quite high.
Yeah.
So if you find somewhere on Airbnb, our recommendation is don't book it without speaking to the owner. Email them, message them however you can, and ask if they have any special pricing for a month's stay or 2 months stay. And oftentimes they'll wipe out some of the fees and give you a cheaper price.
And also, Norm, I think we need to say that there might be a lot of our viewers that are not sure about going on their own.
It can seem awesome, a big leap of faith. You don't know whether the apartments are there or you're being ripped off or you just don't know what you're going to come up against. So we have a solution.
And that is to go use a tour company. And some of the ones we're going to suggest that we know all have deals going to Portugal, and that is Exotica and Senior Discovery Tours. And there's also a couple more too, Norm.
Yeah, Approach Tours. And another one that we forgot about, but we went to China with this organization, is your local Chamber of Commerce. Certainly around our area, the Chamber of Commerce is very active. And this year, it seems all the local Chamber of Commerce...
It's a mouthful, that Chamber of Commerce.
I was trying to get the plural of it,
Oh.
and I couldn't do that. Anyway, they're all going to Portugal this year.
Yeah, we were really surprised at that, weren't we?
We are.
That everybody's going to Portugal. Yeah.
Why do we keep going back to Portugal? Well, two very good reasons, maybe three. The weather. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's kind of Goldilocks weather. Portugal feels safe. We've just come back from the Dominican Republic, and we did venture out into
Sort of off the resort.
the urban area. And it's like a lot of Caribbean islands. Some of it's broken down, the infrastructure isn't particularly good, and then there's always seemingly some people stood on street corners calling out to you for some type of thing. You don't get that in Portugal.
No.
The infrastructure is very good. It is a European country, and we do feel very safe.
Yeah, I think that was one thing that struck with us when, as Norm says, when we came back from Dominican, when we were kind of thinking about the reasons why we go to places, and we were discussing this, and we both felt, you know what, we actually feel very secure there in Portugal. We've never had anything strange happen, have we?
No.
And
the food is great, and the prices are very competitive. The prices for accommodation, you should be able to pick something up, a freestanding apartment, a one-bedroom, kitchen, washing machine, all that good stuff. For, I don't know, from somewhere around 1,200 to 1,500 Canadian dollars. They do go up as high as 2,000 euros, but there are certainly deals there. And eating out is very, very competitive, and the food is incredibly good and tasty. And if you've never had Portuguese food, you're in for a real treat.
And I think possibly too, if you do look at getting an apartment, is that you can be kind of adventurous and go and get some of the local products and cook them yourself and experiment with the different things that are available.
It's easy to buy stuff in the supermarkets. The checkout people, most of them have good enough English that you can get by on. You can use your credit card from home, and they're just first world facilities. The supermarkets you would recognize from being at home. So
and I was going to just mention there too, Norm, that when you talked about using credit cards, getting money from the banks is quite easy, isn't it? You can go to a lot of the banks to get euros, so don't feel that that's going to be a problem.
Not at all.
No.
But just make sure you go to a bank and use the bank machine. Don't use any machines that are in hotels or clubs or bars. Just stick with the bank and you should be very, very safe. Let's recap on the weather again. If you want to go in Portugal in the summertime to the Algarve, it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot, hot, hot. And it's going to be crowded.
Yes, it is.
So you've got the N125 road running by. That gets heavily congested in the summertime. In the winter, December, January, February, March, not so much. It's there's more and more tourists going in the winter period, but it's not busy at all. But what you will notice is a few restaurants are closed because they work hard in the summertime. So a lot of them take the winter off.
Yeah, I think that's very true, isn't it?
And the other thing is renting a car. If you end up at Faro Airport, if you've pre-booked a car, it's very simple. There's a lot of car rental agencies in the car park that's called P4, and there's like a, you know what a mobile classroom is like. It's like a mobile office, a container, and they all have. It has a counter in there, and the agents from several companies are in there, and they will have brought your car to that point. So that's just a short walk, not even 5 minutes from the airport terminal.
No, it's very accessible, isn't it?
And we're looking to rent a car at the moment for this coming winter, and we're seeing prices around 300 Canadian for 28 days.
Which we feel is quite reasonable, really, don't we?
Very competitive.
We did find that last time we didn't rent a car, and I'm going to say we maybe felt a little bit more isolated, didn't we? So this time we're going to get a car.
Yeah, we are indeed. So that's our take on Portugal. We hope if you have never been there that you'll give it a try. It's a marvelous place to go in winter. You will meet other Americans, British people, other Europeans, and it's just a good situation. So we hope everybody's keeping well.
And staying safe.
And until the next time,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.